Yeah, real time just got real. And today I will try to explain you German or English. Just first, English is better. Okay. I want to show you how it looks like and how to use it and why it is something you should have looked at if you want to do some JavaScript cool stuff. I'm Dominik Sanderts and I'm a student currently and I work at von Waldkirch. That's a very small little web agency in Zurich. And this is my Twitter name. Yeah, I think I'm not very interesting. No, I think you are way more interesting. So I want to ask you a few questions. Who has ever heard of WebSockets? Oh wow. Okay. Who has ever used Socket.io? Good. Otherwise I could have cancelled you. Good. The story why I'm telling you, I don't know if this is necessary, but yeah, you just can say skip it if you don't want to hear it. It was like, I was just last year there were many web technologies popping up everywhere, and one was great and then was new, and you have to learn it and this. And I did this with Node.js and HTML5 and CSS3 and CouchDB and all this crazy stuff, and I never looked at Socket.io because I thought this is again something you don't have to really know. It will go over and you will never hear of it again. And this is how I looked. It was just so, okay, should I really care about another technology? And I said yes. Why? Because it's easy to learn. It has a very flat curve and it's fast. It's built on Node.js. It's a Node.js module. And it solves a problem, and it really solves one problem. It's quite a clear niche, and that's why you should care about it, I think. Generally, it's about real-time exchange of data between server and client. It's the same thing that WebSocket does, because in effect it is WebSocket. But I see many of you have heard of WebSocket, so I skipped this real-time because I wanted to explain what real-time really means, and I wanted to say it's not that. And it's also for the more advanced people, it's not that. Does anyone not know this? Okay. Basically, it's just set interval is something you could use to simulate real-time, to fetch data from the server every 10 milliseconds or 60 or 100. And the problem here is that when the PC or the laptop that does execute your script has CPU resources used or somewhere else for calculating, I don't know, or you have 10 or 1,000 sites open, then it can happen that it skips one interval or it's
Just sit down.
Yeah, it can happen that one interval or one tick is not executed, or several ticks are executed multiple times, or the browser is still executing one tick and trying to do the other, and in the end you end up with a browser that breaks, or yeah. And generally the server will not like this because he gets every 10 milliseconds or 60 milliseconds some request. Maybe that's not necessary. And request animation frame is something new that was introduced a few years ago to solve this problem. They say just, you can say, I make a tick, I request something, and then I call request animation frame, and this, I give a handle to that function, and the browser will execute this tick as soon as it's ready to do it. So not every 10 milliseconds, so as soon as he's able to do it according to CPU and all this. But this is not really real time. Socket.io is real time because you have WebSockets. And WebSockets is really, you make a socket from your client, from your browser to the server, and you can write to that socket and it gets pushed to your server, and the other way around. Your server can write to that socket back to the client. And you have no overhead, no HTTP overhead you would have with AJAX calls. you have no latency or something. Just this bunch of things you do for having AJAX calls all the time, or I don't know. It's just using WebSockets, you're pretty fast at doing this, and yeah, that's not bad. Socket.io is a WebSocket wrapper. It wraps on the client side. It takes away all the WebSocket calls you would have to do, and in general, it's a Node.js module. Means you have to have a Node server on the other side, on the server side, and you just have the client library on the client side. And as they say themselves, it's carefree, real-time, 100% JavaScript. That's true, it's really carefree. Yeah, as I said, sockets are between server and clients, multiple clients, and they send data no matter what data. You can pass strings, complex data like arrays or JSON objects, and that's all no problems. And you can, and the server reacts the same as the client. You can, when he receives data, an event is triggered in your JavaScript, so you can handle the data and pass it to a function or whatever. And the WebSocket itself is asynchronous. Yeah. And that's the main point for Socket.io. It's very easy. You have basically two events, two functions you have to call. It's emit and on. With emit, you send something from the client to the server, or you emit something from the server to the client. That's it. And on is used to react on incoming data. What I'm doing here is, let's suppose this is the client and this is the server. And I'm emitting a hello event with this data. And on the server I'm doing nothing else than say on the hello event, when this happens, you do this function with the data. And the data is exactly this one. So it's extremely straightforward. I couldn't think of anything easier to do here. Yeah, that's for it. Two comments, you emit and on. And setup of Socket.io is also very straightforward. First you have to install the Socket.io node package. And then this is the server setup. You just do the usual stuff you would do if you have a Node.js server anyway. That's an HTTP server. And here you just require Socket.io as a node module.
Go there and sit on the table. Yeah, that's also an option.
You even stopped for a sandwich.
Yeah! Just a quick question. Does anybody have questions so far, or I'm talking too fast? Or is it good? Good. Okay. Yeah, this is the server setup. You require the socket module as you would every other node module, and then you create a server, the HTTP server, let it listen to some port. It's 8080 here, and this is mainly the important part. Listen to that HTTP server. You don't have to have, you don't need to have an HTTP server. You could directly just create a Socket.io server, but this is nice, so you can have one node server where you can serve HTML files and have your Socket.io running and all this. And this is it. This is the setup until here.
So while we wait,
Yes.
I've heard a couple of people talking about WebSockets in general, but I just cannot figure out how I can sell something like that to a customer. I don't see the use cases if you're not it seems to me it's always chat or mostly chat. Yeah, I don't know what I can sell, what the use cases are.
You can sit on the floor if you want.
On the table.
Yes.
Or just take this chair.
I will cover use cases at the end. Okay. That's very good. I don't think Socket.io is something you can sell. It's not.
You don't sell the technology, but
Yeah.
you need to sell something to be able to use it.
Yeah, I think you can pretty much sell anything that has to do with the web, because Socket.io is built for exchanging data between server and client, or WebSockets in general. And we make websites, and websites are also just exchange of data between client and server. But yeah, we will see this later. Is okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, this was the setup for the server, and here, after this, there comes the definitions on which events you want to react and what you want to emit to the client. So you say every time a socket is created, a client connects, a connection event is raised. That's default. And here you can, in this function, you can define for this client, you have here the events you want to react on, you expect from him. And this would be the hello event. We are the server and we expect a hello event raised by the client to us to transmit some data. I don't know, yes. Or could be anything else. And on the client, it's even easier. You just have to include the socket lib, the socket IO lib there, and it's about, I don't know, some kilobytes. And all you have to do is to connect. It's just really netsocket equals to IO connect, and then you have your connection set up. And here again, this was the setup, and here you start to define which stuff comes from the server, which you want to react. It's a little bit, yeah, I did it wrong here. No, I did it right, but it's not good to show what I mean. It's the same hello event, so you could write here something else, and it would be another event you would expect from the server. And that's server sent me a hello, yes, it's that. And you get the data here, and you can act accordingly. And here again is the emit command. And with the emit command, when I call this the hello event, this data, greeting server, is transmitted to the server through the WebSocket. And if we see here, when this hello event comes, this function is executed. So on the server you would have on your console, someone said hello with the data he transmitted, and in this case would be greeting server. Clear now? Everything? The bad points, or the killers, usually, at a new technology, people say, oh, it's not compatible, scalable, performant, or robust. With Socket IO, I can clearly say this is not the case. Coming to compatibility, to these ladies, it's it's WebSocket, and WebSocket is at this stage only available in Chrome 16, Firefox 11, IE 10, Safari 5, and you can read it. And it's built in and disabled in Chrome 6 and Firefox 4 very early. But this would be very sad. So this would mean you couldn't use it in production. You can, because Socket IO has some holy fallbacks. It uses WebSocket primarily and then grades down to what is available. So it uses flash sockets. I don't really know how these work. I really know how. I know what WebSocket is and how it works, but I don't know the other ones. Maybe IX long polymer could be, and JSON-P polymer. Okay, forever iframe. I think it's a very ugly hack, but yeah, of course. So what they promise you, what I didn't test myself, but what they promise is support for IE 5.5, Safari 3, Chrome 4, Firefox 3, Opera 10, which is quite good for production use, I would say. And it's also on iOS devices. You can use Socket IO without having to fear that it doesn't work. It will work in some way. Magic and always. Scalability, performance, robustness. I have to say I didn't test those myself. It's just performance tests, I don't understand them because they all calculate Fibonacci numbers and I don't think that makes sense. But scalability and all this, I had never problems. Robustness is, I had never strange bugs. I had never behavior I didn't expect. All I can say is that for my stuff, I use it, it always worked, and as it's basically a Node.js module, and I think it's coded in the way Node wants it to have coded, it scales the same as Node.js and it performs the same as Node.js. So yeah, I can smile to that. And, yeah. The use cases. Yeah, chats. Chats, yeah, is kind of the ideal application because you have one to many clients connected to one server and they're exchanging messages. And what you can do with Node.js is send data to the server, but the server can forward this data to all the other clients. He can broadcast messages and he can forward one message from one client to another client, a specific client. So what you have is on your server you can forward the messages from any arbitrary client to any arbitrary client back. You can have just for clients sending you data and you make something with it, but you can also have the server who pushes data. And this is really important, I think. You can broadcast, you can have channels, you can have several clients grouped together and you broadcast only to this group of things. That's why chat is the ideal application. You could do this because it channels and all this. But what you also have is, as a use case, is all real-time applications. If you have a Twitter stream or something, you have an application like Twitter that needs to push messages to the clients, and so you can use Socket.io, for example. Or for collaboration software, there is a nice demo where you have a HTML5 canvas and people draw. And other people on the same page or on the same domain, on the same path, with some random ID generated, see what you're drawing in real time. So if you know Google Wave, or if you have known Google Wave, this is kind of the application Socket.io would really be big at, because it's all having one document and all the people are doing stuff and it goes to the server and all the people want to see what the other people do, and it's these kind of applications, I would say. Social networks, of course, I mean, if Facebook would do their chat with Socket.io, I bet it would work better. Yes. And single page apps, of course, because Socket.io can survive. One socket can technically survive if you change the page, if you reload or something. But it's really neat to use if you have a single page web, because the socket is just there and you can use it everywhere in your application. It's not complicated. You just have the socket as a global variable or as some kind of class or something, and you can use it, and it's just like an API for your whole application to the server. So you could also do everything you do now with AJAX calls, or I don't know, JSON-P or something. You could do it with Socket.io, even file uploads. I've even uploaded files with Socket.io and it works. It's no problem. That's why I say every project, I mean every web project is some kind of getting data from the server and sending it back. Sending it back is kind of Web 2.0, but getting data from server is always the same problem. And Socket.io is just good in that and good in having it real time, having it with multiple people, and solving the problem of clients exchanging data to other clients, as you can bridge it over the server very easy. It's nothing new, but it's something very easy. What I have here, 18 minutes, good. Demos, I have some demos.
Yay.
Just two quick things.
You can sit on the chair.
Oh. I'm not using it yet in a real customer project, but let's see. In some prototypes and some project that's gonna be for customers sometime. I think it's Schreibtisch and it's Socket.io and it's Stockholm. Not good.
Destroying the office chat.
Hold up here, buddy. Yep.
Sorry?
Actually, it's my powder coming down.
Space cost.
Yay. Good.
Boing.
This is my first demo. This is a WebGL demo. We had some talk at the Web Tuesday about WebGL, and this is what we made with it. This is for a real customer, but it's what you see is, here is about 4 weeks old, and that's good for us. Yeah, you have here a 3D space where you have objects. He wanted to he has some objects in his collection, some art objects. You click here and you get it. All this. Yeah, it's a very early prototype, but it works. And you can spin around and go up, down, zoom, and all this. You can say which century you want to have displayed in all. And what we did here is prototype. So. Wait until the textures are loaded. Show. Okay. That's a map that shows where these objects are in Switzerland, and that's the map. It shows where they come from the world. Yes. What we now did is, the problem is I'm pressing here ASD, and WQE to navigate, and it's quite hard. I could also use the mouse, but it has WebGL has some limitations that don't make it very nice. So what we did was to use our iPad, because we have presented this stuff many times to the customer. To get an idea where we stand and all this. And then we said an iPad would be more suited for this kind, because it offers more gestures and all this kind, because here you have not only scroll up and down, scroll left and right, you have pinch, zoom and rotate and all this stuff. And so we built something, we built oops, I have to connect. So we built something we can navigate through this using the iPad. This is just the right side is for rotate around, down and up. And the left side is, I think in this prototype, slightly broken. It would be the zoom, but I can't zoom in again, I think, yes. So, you get the idea. This is made, this goes over the net. You see, the domain is rtv.org, that's our server. And it goes over the internet, and it would even work if I would be in Brazil, and it's very fast, I would say. And if you, whoops, so what I'm doing is transmitting the deltas of the first point here, and when I stop, it stops. Stop. Stop. That's some, you get an intuition of the speed of this transmission. I mean, I would have no idea how to do this with Ajax calls, but yeah, maybe I'm just bad, but yeah, I mean I stop. Good. What you see here, you can't see it, but this is a tiny picture of what you see here on the screen. I can give that around. That's live rendered. It's just it's an image transmitted via Socket.io. This is because of WebGL. You can export the scene you have rendered as a PNG and get the data URL and get that base 64 encoded. And so I'm transmitting this back to the iPad over Socket.io, and it's also fast. I'm doing this, I think, every second, and there we have it. So it goes also very good. That's for performance and what you could do with it also. But what the other demo was
So do you just a question about the product vision and what it's good for to have it on the iPad? is it for a store or something where they?
No, it's just for us it was a test, and also to make the presentations we give for the customer a little bit more impressive.
Okay.
And, yeah, because it was just stupid if we hang on the laptop and we couldn't give the customer the control because it was too complicated.
Mhm.
With this we could give him to play around himself.